good afternoon, good evening. This video finds you. Welcome to Ticks. So, yeah, I know 2 in a row today, right? Before we start, uh, this so-called government shutdown is, of course, over. House passes funding package to end partial government shutdown. The Republican-led House on Tuesday, that will be today, voted to pass the government funding package to end the partial shutdown. The measure, which received some bipartisan support, passed with a vote of 217 to 214. It now heads to President Donald Trump's desk for signature. The measure provides funding for the Pentagon, Education, Treasury, Labor, and State Departments through the end of the fiscal year. The bill also includes a 2-week short-term measure to keep Department of Homeland Security funded through the end of next week. Lawmakers in both chambers, who remain far apart on immigration enforcement reform, have until February 13th to negotiate a deal to keep DHS funded. If a deal is not reached and passed in both chambers by then, DHS would then shut down. The TSA, Coast Guard, Customs and Border Patrol, U.S. Secret Service, CISA, and FEMA would be impacted, even though lawmakers' focus is on immigration and customs enforcement reform. ICE operations would not be impacted after it received $75 billion in separate funding from the already passed Big Beautiful Bill. So basically what they're trying to do, they're trying to take away the backup of ICE. Do you understand? They're trying to take away the backup of ICE, which will be, of course, the Department of Homeland Security. In other words, ICE agents will be out there by themselves. And to be honest, they need to go ahead and call an insurrection in Minnesota where you have these losers out here setting up their own roadblocks and checkpoints of average people where if you just go to a restaurant and as you saw, they think you're ICE. They're out here with plate readers and everything. And they're following people, stalking people, harassing people, attacking people that they think might be part of ICE or DHS. Yeah, I'm sorry. You don't get to make the laws. So if they don't pass it, and I would tell Trump, if you don't pass it, I'll just call an insurrection in Minnesota and in California and possibly Portland. So I would advise you to go ahead and pass it, especially in Minnesota and California. The people are out of control and their local and state government is facilitating it. They're doing nothing about it. They're allowing it to happen, especially now that you have children. They're now having the children out here on the front lines. There's a video out here, and I saw it this morning, but I didn't put it up there because of extreme violence, where some students beat up a teacher for wearing a MAGA hat. Students beat up a teacher for wearing a MAGA hat because the students were out there protesting. And I'll say it again, if I had a kid in school and this is what they did as far as like just protesting, I'm beating you're getting the leather. No, you get a whooping. You're getting a whooping, and I'm suing that school for child endangerment. I sent my child there to learn ABCs and 1, 2, 3s, communist doctrine, not to go stand out on the front lines against federal agents trying to protect rapists, pedos, murderers, drug and human traffickers, and thieves. Earlier, after some drama and delay, the House passed a key procedural hurdle that set up the later vote, with Republican Representative Thomas Massie of Kentucky as the only no vote along with all Democrats. The vote was held open for about 45 minutes as several Republicans held out on casting their votes. Republican leaders ultimately worked the holdouts to secure enough votes to advance the package. And that's the problem with the Republicans. Too many of them sit on the sidelines doing nothing. House Speaker Mike Johnson, who faces an incredibly tight margin, could only afford to lose one Republican vote with all members present and voting. Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries and House Democrat leaders voted against the package that passed Tuesday afternoon, a deal that was negotiated by Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and the White House. Why? Why? It has nothing to do with ICE or DHS. So why? Honorary cusses. The agreement separated DHS funding bill from 5 others funding other agencies. Excuse me, let me redo that. Because I mean the lack of common sense on the Democratic side is just, it's baffling. The agreement separated DHS funding bill from 5 others funding other agencies for the rest of the fiscal year and grants 2 weeks of extended DHS funding to negotiate Democratic demands for restrictions on ICE amid its immigration enforcement operation, including requiring agents to wear body cameras turned on and to not wear masks. But they're going to wear the masks. They can wear the body cams, but they're going to wear the masks. The funding fight over DHS erupted in the aftermath of the death of Alex Preddy, an ICU nurse who was killed in a shooting involving federal law enforcement in Minneapolis on January 24th. Jeffries told Johnson over the weekend that Democrats would not help Republicans expedite the funding package. Meanwhile, hardline Republicans also threatened to hold the package up in hopes of attaching an unrelated bill that would require a proof of citizenship in federal elections known as the SAVE Act. Though some hardliners, including Reps Anna Paulina Luna and Tim Burchett, had backed down on their demands. Yeah, just get the bill passed. We'll deal with it later. We'll deal with it later. The SAVE Act, we'll deal with it later. You got time. You'll come back to it on another day. Simple as that. So let's get into this. Now, Ron DeSantis, when he tried to run for president, I said that if he mirrored Trump's talking points, because Trump was having his troubles trying to run for president for the 3rd time, I said if Ron DeSantis mirrored Trump's talking points, he should be just fine. But it seemed like, as I watched Ron DeSantis speak as he was running for president, it seemed like the stage was too big for him. He was sweaty, he was nervous, he was fumbling his words. And I'm like, dude, what's wrong with you? So, of course, he dropped out. He dropped out because I thought he had the best shot. If it wasn't going to be Trump, I figured it would probably be Ron DeSantis for all the work that he was doing down there in Florida. Now, I know that the NAACP said black people should leave Florida because it's racist. Since when do we care what the NAACP has to say? The NAACP don't care about black people. Like, since when did the NAACP care about black people in your lifetime? If they say do one thing, do the opposite. So anyway, let's see what's going on, because he's going to speak about the beautiful things that he's done in Florida.
Usually it's a little warmer than it's been. They just had the Punxsutawney Phil up in Pennsylvania, 6 more weeks of winter. And I just want to let you know I'm working on an executive order to overrule Phil, to reinstate the good weather, and I expect that to be effective probably about 1 week from now. We can get back to business. It's really great to be here. We've enjoyed coming down here over the years, and Joe was somebody that helped me when I was running for Congress. We'd be doing events and everything, and so I've kind of watched Southwest Florida grow a lot over the last 10, 15 years. And, when I think about what we do in Florida, I think back about 100 years ago, President Calvin Coolidge made an observation that I think is pretty apt to what we see today. He said, "You cannot successfully administer the government by substituting the power of entertainment for the power of accomplishment." And we have so many of these politicians, these congressmen, they go on cable news, they blab, they'll do a press release, and nothing actually gets done. And so, my what I can do and stand here today, and I know I came here early in my tenure, I can say, you guys vote for a lot of different candidates on a lot of different things. Those who voted for me, I can say what I promised you I would do, I have delivered on those promises. And isn't that what you want elected officials to do?
Yeah, because what he did, he went after Disney with the Don't Say Gay bill. He, what is it, Reedy Creek? He made them pay their fair share of taxes, which is $700 million. And he took away their corporate ownership of that town. All right. They also was getting ready to file antitrust and fraud charges on them. They were under investigation. This was under the Biden administration. So no telling what happened with that. Ever since the end of the election, after Trump was elected, he wound up doing away with squatters. Yeah, no more squatters' rights in Florida. No more squatters' rights in Florida. If a homeowner or whatnot, because, you have a lot of people, rich people, who own homes in Florida, but they live in like New York, Chicago, whatever. And then, of course, they, I think they call them snowbirds. They come down for the winter. They spend the winter down in Florida, and then they go back home when the weather gets better. So you had people who were squatting in these people's houses. And the bill is, if you come to your house and somebody is squatting in your house and you have two options. As Ron DeSantis said, you have two options. Either you can shoot them as burglars, you can shoot them as home invaders / burglars, or you can call the police. Either one is fine with him. This is state and local government law concerning squatters. You can shoot them or you can call us. The sheriff was like, we would rather you go to the range, make sure you're a good shot so nobody else accidentally gets hit. But if you call the police and the police show up and you're telling them, yeah, this person's squatting in our house. And if they say, well, no, I have a lease, and they present a fraudulent lease, they get arrested and charged with a felony. Over $5,000? You know what I'm saying? That's grand theft. Yeah, so squatters' rights in Florida is gone. And last I heard, and I don't know if he'll speak on this, but he was trying to end property tax in Florida. I think that still might be on the table, but they're trying to end property tax in Florida, so that way you own your home outright. Also, with protests, they said, hey, look, if you try to mob a car and these people have the right to run you over, I would advise you not to block the streets when you protest out here in Florida. We allow carry concealed. If you get mobbed by a group of protesters or a group of people or whatnot, you feel in danger, open fire. Open fire. Do understand this is what that white guy that shot the black teenager over the rap music, that was what his defense was, even though there was no gun and nobody got out of the car. Yeah, they just let you know, hey, you can do this in Florida, but you have to make sure that you're doing it right, or you can find yourself in federal prison. At any rate, these are some of the things that Ron DeSantis has done. He's got all that gay stuff out of the school system. I think they're working on getting all that communist doctrine crap out of the school system, and they've definitely increased their crime laws. But I'll let the man speak for himself in case he doesn't mention it. You already know beforehand.
So think about K-12 education. We promised to do universal school choice. We've done universal school choice. Every parent can choose the school of his or her choice for their kids. We've promoted civics education. in our schools, and we've enacted the Parents' Bill of Rights because we believe that ultimately parents have the right to direct the education and upbringing of their kids. You look at higher education, we have the #1 ranked public university system in the United States of America, and that's been true every year since I've been governor.
Yeah, see, they got rid of that
But the one question I would always get when I was running is, why are these colleges so liberal and political and everything? And I want you to know we've restored our universities to the classical mission of a university, which is the pursuit of truth. It's promoting merit. It's making sure that we're preparing our students to be citizens of this republic. And we've done that partially by offering support to the universities, financial support, whatever, but we've changed the underlying architecture. In Florida, because of reforms we instituted, all tenured professors now must undergo review every 5 years and can be terminated for poor performance.
Oh, wow. No more
We also have created a way to hotline in talented faculty from across the country who may not toe the ideological line that so many of the entrenched faculty do. So we've brought people in. So just look at the University of Florida, our Hamilton Center for Civic Leadership. We've brought people from Harvard, from Princeton, from Chicago, from Oxford. They don't go through the faculty. The faculty can't block them. They go to the board of trustees and they get appointed. So we've been able to create a mass of really high-powered intellectual giants that would have taken, under the old rules, it would have taken us 75 years to do it. We've done it in 2, and the best is yet to come. We promised that Florida would be a law and order state. And again, we've delivered on that. You didn't see BLM burning down cities in Florida in 2020. And the reason is people try to do that, go to jail in the state of Florida. There was a vignette on CNN where they actually found these, I think they may have even been illegals, but they were stealing in New York City. It was like a big theft ring. And they would steal, they'd sell it, they'd make all this money. Then they'd come down to Florida and party basically with the money. Then they go back to New York, steal, come back down. And the CNN person was like, okay, well, if you like partying in Florida so much, why don't you just steal down there? Why do you keep coming back to New York? And they're like, because they put you in jail in Florida when you do. That's why we don't do it. But we now have, and also Florida's led, I'm the only governor in America that has removed Soros-backed district attorneys from office. And these are very dangerous people because they will not enforce the law. So all the things we've done has now led to Florida having a 50-year low in the crime rate. And we're proud of that. You look at the promises on combating illegal immigration. My first year as governor, we banned sanctuary cities. A lot of people said, oh, you can't do that. The Hispanics won't vote for you. What ended up happening was I got the biggest share of vote for Hispanics in the history of the state of Florida, over 60% in my reelection. But we understood you had to uphold the rule of law. You had to protect communities. And so when President Trump was reelected, see the stuff in Minnesota, I saw that I understood what could happen. A year ago, more than a year ago, I called a special session of the legislature here in Florida. And a lot of people don't necessarily remember the details. I had opposition from the leadership in the Florida House. I ended up having to veto a bill. But the thing that I wanted more than anything was a requirement that all state and local law enforcement cooperate with the federal government for interior enforcement and immigration. The reason? Yes, some sheriffs would want to do it, but some won't. Some mayors would want to be like the Minneapolis mayor. And so we made it very clear, this is your responsibility. We're all going to be on the same team here. The voters have spoken. And if you don't do that, I have the authority under the law to remove you from office. Well, guess what? You have much better harmony in the state of Florida as a result of that. And so just in the last 9 months, our state and locals have helped with the apprehension and removal of almost 20,000 illegal aliens. And some of them have very serious criminal records, but that is how you do it in a way that's seamless and where people are working together.
Oh, Ron DeSantis? What's going on, Simon? Yeah, he's just laying down the law, just giving people an update of the things that he's done over the past 4 or 5 years. you know. And like he said, with his immigration system, or the Hispanics won't vote for you. Like, bruh, there are a lot of Hispanic and black people that work for ICE. There are a lot of Hispanic people who are for they're for ICE. They are anti-illegal immigration. They left they left their South American homelands to come here legally for a better life. They left to get away from the douchebags that the Biden administration opened the door for. It's almost like, I'll put it to you like this. The best way I can explain it for black people is if you left the projects with the rats and the roaches and the gangbangers and drug dealers and crackheads and prostitutes, and suddenly you move into a middle-class neighborhood where kids are outside jump roping and having water balloon fights and riding their bikes in the street, just a utopia. All of a sudden you get an HOA and suddenly they allow Section 8 housing, like all up and down the neighborhood, all in the streets and everything. And the worst of the worst wind up getting these houses with their bad kids and their drug addicted parents, with their thieving boyfriends, and they're prostituting all up. I mean, you leave the hood for a reason. Ooh, and they think people want that? They think Hispanic people want that? If we don't want it, what makes them think that they want it? That's why I said I'm 60% of the vote. Let's go.
You look at fiscal responsibility and what we've done in Florida. Of course, we have no income tax, and that will not change as long as I have anything to say about it. I'm going to mention property tax in a second, but we've cut taxes every year. We eliminated the business rent tax. We've done all kinds of stuff. All these things now, these tax holidays are permanent. Baby items, back to school, disaster preparedness, all that stuff. So, if you're poor in Florida, your necessities aren't taxed at all with sales. Food, medication, baby items, all that stuff. And that's great. And we're one of the lowest tax states in the country. Our budget, our population is now 4 million more people than New York State. And yet New York State's budget is more than twice the size of the budget of the state of Florida. Where is that money going? Are they doing better roads in Florida? No. Better education? No. Better services? Of course not. In fact, New York City's budget, 8 million people, is bigger than the budget of the state of Florida with over 23 million people. And so our total spending at the state level is always ranked either the lowest or second lowest per capita in the entire United States of America. But we've done good things, and I'm going to talk about what we've done. Our state employees, you talk about the scope of government. We have the lowest percentage of state employees per capita of any state in the United States. Our state debt, you take so I instituted an accelerated repayment program because I knew we could retire the debt, get them at a discount on the open market, retire the bonds, and I knew we could save on both principal and interest, and we have. So if you take all the debt that Florida accumulated over its 180-year history, just since I've been governor, we've retired more than 50% of it. We now have the lowest per capita debt in the country.
How do I feel about them? I mean, the same way I feel about anybody else, any other politician. What are your policies? I don't know you as a person. I've never been to your house at a cookout or anything like that. But what are your policies? I like his policies. Ron DeSantis been kicking people's butts, ever since 2020? Like, he first got on my radar with what he was doing with Disney. But I've already spoke on that. You have to catch it on the replay. But yeah, I don't have a problem with it. I think he's a damn good governor from what I've seen over the past 5 years.
Now, we talked about the great fiscal, but yet even with that, very conservative footprint, we're doing big things. When I became governor, I said we are going to do Everglades restoration. It had been basically losing momentum. There wasn't much happening. And so we said, we're going to lead on it. And we've put billions and billions of dollars towards Everglades restoration and water quality. You now have the reservoir on the west side of Lake Okeechobee. So the Army Corps used to discharge dirty water into the Caloosahatchee, and it could end up coming here, create algae blooms, mix with red tide, create big problems for Southwest Florida. Well, now we have the reservoir. If they need to discharge water, they send it to the reservoir, you clean it, and then you put it back into circulation. So those days are over because of what we've done. We're also moving water south, massive water south through the Everglades all the way to Florida Bay. We see fishing improve, salinity levels improve, and because we've done so much on my watch, I was able to get the federal government to delegate us ability to do some of the federal projects, because we can do them a hell of a lot quicker than they can. So, they're doing the main reservoir south of Lake Okeechobee. We're doing the other federal components to that. And so we're able to get that done 5 years ahead of where it was previously scheduled. So as long as what we've done continues, I got in 2019. By 2029, we will have done what we needed to do the largest restoration in the history of the United States of America environmentally. And oh, by the way, yeah, it's good. Because we've had freezes in the southern part of Florida, that is actually an opportunity to relieve ourselves of some of these invasive species. We do know that the iguanas have been paralyzed. They're being collected. People don't have to turn them over to FWC. They can dispose of them. But I think you're going to see a major reduction in iguana population. They're pests, they're invasive, and they're not good for the overall environment, particularly the bird eggs. But then also the pythons. We don't know yet exactly what the mortality, if any, is there. They kind of burrow when it gets cold. So if it's just one night, they may be able to get through that. But this whole week seems like it's going to be cold. So you may end up seeing really significant mortality of the pythons. I have a program in there where people go in, hunt them, get them out. They make boots and they make belts, and great. And that's help. We've increased a lot, but man, if like a bunch of them just die off in the cold, that would make it much easier for us. They're invasive, they're destructive to the ecosystem, and that would be very, very positive for us if that could happen. And the other thing that we've done was we've done more land and conservation than any administration in the history of Florida. In fact, we now have the Florida Wildlife Corridor, which spans from Southwest Florida all the way to the northern part of the state. We're a growing state. There is need to have housing and things like that, but we don't want the state to be, one big cement block. And we want to make sure that we're preserving those things that are really beautiful. And we are doing that. Election integrity. Remember, when I came in, we still had problems with elections in Florida. I came in, we got rid of the supervisors in Palm Beach and Broward County. And then we enacted the strongest election integrity measures in the country. No ballot harvesting, no Zuckerbucks, none of the things that have plagued these other states. And we even have a unit in state government that brings criminal prosecutions for voter fraud, which oftentimes would be overlooked, particularly at the local level in liberal jurisdictions. We promised we'd make Florida number one for workforce education by the end of the decade. We're ahead of schedule on that. Look, I went to Yale University and Harvard Law School, so I'm not opposed to higher education, although I will tell you, running in a Republican primary, those degrees are scarlet letters. So when I was doing that, when I was running to Congress, they're like, hey, this guy was in the Navy, served in Iraq, he's got a beautiful wife, he's young, he's energetic, he's conservative. Oh, but he went there. So I had to kind of overcome that hump. So, I'm a believer in higher education. Really elite education, and our universities are becoming more and more elite by the day. But a 4-year brick and ivy university is not the only way you can be successful. Vocational education, skills education, oftentimes provides people with great pathways. And we have high school students that are getting certified in some really important skills where they're going right into SpaceX and some of these major companies. And we've leaned in on that from the beginning, and we're going to continue to do that. We promised that we would stop Florida's reputation for being a legal and judicial hellhole. You know, when you drive around the state, you see all the billboard lawyers up there, right? It's like, call this, call that. Well, there's a reason for that, because we've had jurisprudence and laws that have incented more and more litigation. And so we finally did tort reform a couple years ago. It was a lot of fight, but we got it done. And now, what are you seeing? You're seeing auto insurance companies offering lower rates. You're seeing rebates. USAA just announced a 7% reduction. Home insurance, you just saw a reduction from Citizens property insurance. Peninsula just announced that. Any reduction and all that is going up nationwide dramatically and has.
Yeah, remember Florida couldn't get homeowners insurance? Y'all remember that? The homeowners insurance in Florida was sky high. And in some areas they couldn't even get insurance. Yeah, he walked all that back. He made them come back. This is why I say, I mean, you're hearing all of his accomplishments just in Florida. This is why I was like, he should have been president, or at least he should at least got to the primaries, but he dropped out and endorsed Trump. Just like Vivek Ramaswamy. Am I getting this last name? Ramaswamy goes there. Yeah, he dropped out. He just endorsed Trump. They just let him have it.
Been for many years. All that you're seeing with that, and it will continue. And if you have auto, search, shop, because there's opportunities right now waiting for you with these lower rates. The only reason any of that's happening is because we did the tort reform. We had 8% of claims for homes in the country, and we were 78% of litigation. So this is something that's made a big difference. And then finally, I promised that I would make sure we'd have a conservative Supreme Court, and I've delivered on that. Of the 7 justices on the court, 6 were appointed by me. So the results speak for themselves. We're number 1 economy, number 1 higher ed, number 1 education freedom, number 1 new business formations, number 1 for talent development, number 1 for religious liberty. The amount of income that has moved into Florida since I've been governor is more than has ever moved into an American state in the entire history of the United States of America. Even adjusted for inflation and all of that, people have voted with their feet. I'm not even asking people to come because we got a lot of people. It's hard to get a dinner reservation in Naples. It'd be a lot harder when I'm not governor anymore, too. I'll tell you that. So, you see that. So I'm not even asking people, but they are coming. And so couple issues going forward. We're going to have some good proposals about property taxes. The only thing I will say right now is when I became governor, local governments brought in $32 billion in property tax revenue. This year, it's going to be $60 billion. So don't tell me that you can't do property tax. In fact, if you just adjusted for population growth and inflation, that $32 billion would be about $44 billion. So we need to stand for taxpayers, and we're going to do that. And I've got different ways that I think we're going to be able to do something very, very meaningful. The other thing we're tackling is making sure we have a Bill of Rights for artificial intelligence, because, there's promise with this, but there's also great, great peril. And I believe technologies that enhance the human experience should be welcome. But I don't think we want to be subsidizing technologies that are purporting to supplant the human experience. We want technology to reinforce our values, not to destroy our values. We want to make sure children are protected from online predations. There's a whole host of things that we need to do. But the idea that somehow the best way to ensure that technology develops in a way that reinforces our values is to block states from doing any consumer protection and just hoping that Silicon Valley is going to have our best interests at heart. Let me tell you, those companies are out to make money. And I don't blame them. They're publicly traded by and large. They owe that to their shareholders. That's fine. But it's up for us to channel that into ways that are most productive. Let's capture the benefits of new technologies, but let's avoid these massive, massive pitfalls that we will rue the day if we don't do anything. So final thing I'll say before I take the questions is the lessons that I would say, and I still got, more to do, but the way I've operated is I do a few things. One, north is north. Like, you got to know where you're going. That doesn't change based on the news cycle. It doesn't change based on a poll or media or any of that. North is north. There's big things you want to get done. Every single day as a political leader, it's just meant to distract you from actually getting that done. So you can't get mired in that. You always got to focus on the big picture. And we've done that very, very well. Two, you need people around you that are going to carry that out. And how do you do that? And I tell people, it's like, look, I'm not looking for you to pledge loyalty to me personally. What I want to see is, do you have a pre-existing commitment to our shared philosophy about how you do it? And if you find people that already believe in that, then you can be very sure about how they're going to perform in office. If they don't really have that underlying commitment, then it gets a little more fickle. So we've had a lot of true believers who have really hoped to bring this about. The other thing is, I have not taken a poll since I've been governor. And, the reason is like, what's the poll going to tell me? Like, I can't change my beliefs, right? Like Popeye said, I am what I am. And so, but a good leader, even if the polls aren't good on an issue, if you articulate what you want to do and you do it and deliver results, well, guess what? People will definitely come. That certainly happened with COVID. I mean, those early days of COVID, the media freaked everyone out. Even 75% of Republicans opposed what I was doing by having schools open, by having, the businesses and all that stuff. And then as the weeks and months went on, people, he's right. And then the whole country ended up coming to here, including even lockdown politicians who were locking down their people and escaping to Florida. But had I followed the polls, we would have never been able to do what we did during COVID. The other thing is, to be an effective leader, certainly in politics, you got to know the pressure points. You got to know the leverage points that you have. When I became governor, before I took office, I told the staff, give me a list of all the constitutional, statutory, and customary powers of the governor. I want to know how I can leverage things to be able to get all this stuff to land. I can't just say, I want this and it gets done. I got to maneuver that through a constitutional system of checks and balances. We knew that. We always thought ahead about how you overcome that. And then the final thing is just, I sat there on the first day as governor. I looked around the empty office and I was just like, listen, I don't know what SOB is going to succeed me, but they are not going to have a lot to do because I'm going to get all the meat off the bone that I can. You have a limited amount of time and you got to get it done. And that's what we've done. Thank you.
I mean, Brian Donaldson, do not mess this up. Do not mess this up, Brian Donaldson. Do not mess this up. It's just like with J.D. Vance. Or be it Rubio, but I think it'll be Vance. Trump is going to hand you, he's going to hand you a golden ticket. Do not mess it up. But come on, Brian Johnson, do not mess it up. Like, you're sitting at his quote unquote feet. You see what he's doing? You know what measures he's trying to keep pushing through, trying to get done before he leaves. If he doesn't, we're like, well, hey, what is your plan for this, that, and the other? Can you leave me a handbook, a journal, anything? Some treatments. What are you trying to do? So that way I can push those through. It's just like when George Lucas turned over Star Wars to Disney. He gave them treatments for the last 3 movies, and they had all the comic books and everything, and all they had to do was just go into the books like Marvel did, and they would have made $1 trillion on opening day. But that's not what they did. They went in a different direction, and now the franchise is trash. Marvel's trying to get back from them trying to go woke. Sometimes you do it to yourself. But yeah, this is it. I'm going to go over and do my Browns channel, talk about this freaking quarterback situation. You guys be safe. Be safe. I'll see y'all later tonight. We'll talk about the Epstein stuff. Peace.
Now, gentlemen, Mr. Butler's been up north, I hear. Don't you agree with this, Mr. Butler?
I think it's hard winning a war with words, gentlemen.
What do you mean, sir? I mean, Mr. Hamilton, there's not a cannon factory in the whole South.
What difference does that make, sir, to a gentleman?
I'm afraid it's going to make a great deal of difference to a great many gentlemen, sir.
Are you hinting, Mr. Butler, that the Yankees can lick us?
No, I'm not hinting. I'm saying very plainly that the Yankees are better equipped than we. They've got factories, shipyards, coal mines, and a fleet to bottle up our harbors and starve us to death. All we've got is cotton and slaves and arrogance. That's treachery!
A problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
Right, bye. Thanks for the fun.
Get the fuck out!